Hi, and welcome to AQA You're Soaking in It. My name is Shelley Lambert, and I work at Red Hat. I'm on the technical steering committee of AdoptOpenJDK. I'm a technical leader at the project, and I drive the AQA program. I'm going to talk about what is AdoptOpenJDK in case you don't know. I'm going to focus on what is AQA, where we run, who uses it, some commonly asked questions. We'll do some demos and we'll talk about the future. This isn't really AQA You're Soaking in It. Is not a talk about how to have a bath during these times where we're working from home. This is actually about an open community bringing you free high quality binaries. AQA verified OpenJDK binaries, as a matter of fact. As of the third week in January, we're at around 225 million downloads. So we have a lot of people that are using our binaries. We have a great sense of responsibility in terms of making sure that we're sending out to the ecosystem a high quality binary that people can use, depend on, and make sure that when they bring it into their enterprise and kind of use it in every kind of possible way, they're not going to have a big surprise. They're going to know that they can depend on this free item that they're bringing in. All right. So, AQA, AdoptOpenJDK Quality Assurance. Essentially, we went out and talked to a lot of enterprise customers, and we looked at the Java ecosystem and we said, hey, what's happening? How are people testing this? There are a lot of distributions of OpenJDK binaries out there, and from all accounts, people are using the OpenJDK regression suite, which is part of the OpenJDK repo. It's a fantastic set of tests. But over and beyond that, we could not actually, it is not obvious, it's not open and transparent. What are different distributions doing in terms of testing the quality of their binaries? We know that a lot of people are using the TCK, which is a compliance suite that helps to test whether or not your binary is conformant to the Java specification. It is not a suite that's used to test quality of the binary. It is used to make sure it's compliant, conformant to the specification. Compliance and quality tests are quite different. And if you want to ask questions about that later, please do. So when we said, what do we want to build here, when we built and looked at our AQA roadmap, we wanted to make sure that we were taking into account a lot of requirements coming from enterprise consumers. Your binary needs to be secure, it needs to be functionally correct, it needs to be performant, and it better damn well be scalable and durable in various environments. So we better test that it can stand up to heavy load and stress. And this is a cheesy slide by all accounts to state what does quality assurance mean. The definition of quality assurance: make quality certain to happen. Thanks. Does that mean that we can test in quality? No. In fact, what it means is we set up an environment which makes quality certain to happen. We develop a suite that can be used by developers who are building the language you're using, for them to use and be comfortable with, to make it easy to run testing so that it's joyful to test, to make sure that we capture and have a safety net for things that slip by in that early stage of development, and that we stop the release of binaries if we find something that shouldn't be sent out to the community. All right, so the overview, AQA overview, what is it? It's really just a set of tests from key open source stacks. It ensures that we are, again, meeting those enterprise requirements that I've mentioned previously, that they are functionally correct, they're secure, they're performant, scalable, and durable. It's a community-driven process, and it's designed really for various stakeholders. We think about the developers writing the JVM. We want to be able to make a reproducible environment. We want to have various levels of testing so that you can go from a very quick litmus test into a more extended test and finally into tests that are edge cases or require special setup. And then let's make it easy to triage and assess on the large scale. And I'm going to dive into what drives the process. We have a manifesto, and it sounds maybe more important with that word than it is, but that's really just a very straightforward set of criteria that we follow as a community that ensures that whatever activity we're doing aligns with this set of goals. So the number one goal is that we are doing things in the open and transparently so everyone can see, so everyone can participate. It means we have a diverse and robust set of test suites. Why? Because we want to be able to address those requirements, those enterprise consumer requirements that we gathered when we went out and talked to as many people as would answer our questions. Tests should evolve. They should not be this stale set that lives and kind of deteriorates alongside of the product that they are meant to test. So that means you need continual investment. That means you need a process to modify. It means we need some metrics to judge the quality of the tests themselves and to decide whether to keep them, whether we need new ones, whether we need to update things. And finally, the ability to have comparative analysis and develop a suite that grows stronger the more different things we test. So in that evolution stage, there's a whole lot of pieces. We also wanted to make sure that what we were building is portable so that other people could use it. No sense doing something just for ourselves, mine. We're in a world where maybe that's how some people drive their activities. It's not something we were interested in. We wanted other people to use what we were doing, other people to contribute, and that was extremely important to us. Very last part of the manifesto, the last criteria, is that we wanted the ability to have absolutely reproducible builds and tests. So the ability to tag and publish what we're doing so that you could get back to exactly the same set of tests that were run and reproduce the results in your own location. All right, so that's all very serious, right? The scope of our work, and this is a loose depiction of the scope, is that we build and run tests against a lot of different implementations on a whole lot of different platforms. I think of all the distributors out there, we've really got one of the largest set of platforms that we cover. And at any given time, we are doing this across several versions of the JDK. Obviously the LTS versions 8, 11, and soon to be 17, but all of those interim short-term versions as well. And the cadence comes very quickly, which is a great DevOps challenge. It's really, how do we take a 25-year-old language and all of the heavy process that was built around it from all of the different distributors and make it into something that's light and agile and as effective. We divided the test logically, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit of the later slides. But all that to be said, when you calculate it all out, we run a large amount of testing per release, and I'm not even including in here the pull request tests that we are running the promotion builds and a lot of the Docker image tests that we run. So the notion is that as part of AQA, I had said it's a diverse set of tests. What does that really mean? It means we go out and we gather a great variety of open tests. We go and find tests that are meant to verify a JVM, and we bring them into the suite. Some of the tests are contributed by distributors themselves to our project, and we really, really appreciate that. Some of them are from the OpenJDK project, and some of them are from large Java application communities, and I'll have a slide on that in a moment. The performance benchmarks come from a variety of different open performance benchmark projects. And what this slide is depicting is actually, if you see that bottom line, nobody decided on having a common test framework. Why did they not decide to have a common test framework? Well, over the course of 25 years, some test frameworks did not exist at the time that some of these tests were written. They're still very valuable and valid tests. So some of them still live back in the old world of maybe a slightly older test framework. Some of them are modernized into new test frameworks. I think there's a little tiny bit of hubris here as well in play in terms of, I don't want to use their test framework, I'm going to write my own. All that to be said, we meet the challenge of having to deal with a large variety of test frameworks, and rather than force people to learn every nuance of every different test framework, we decided to lay down a thin veneer, which we call Test Kit Gen. And what this does is make everything look similar to everything else, so that something using this test framework and this and this and this other test framework all look and feel and behave the same. We enforce that each of them report and summarize the results in the same way. We allow for them all to be disabled and re-enabled in the same way, and we simplify the command line to be able to run these. So that allows us to be able to quickly automate a lot of this stuff in our project, but also if you're picking up what we're doing, it's easier for you and your development teams to be able to pick up on. All right, so the other value add that we do here is we have a graduated set of testing, the ability to slice and dice millions of tests in different ways. So being able to take the functional suite or the OpenJDK suite or the performance suite and run a subsection of it that maybe gets at the heart of the matter. I want to be able to say there are different levels of testing. The sanity level is there to find and route out most issues. That's focusing on areas of the JVM that change most often, and also that set of tests that run very quickly. The extended set is a bit meatier. It doesn't run as quickly. It might broaden what is being tested so that things that aren't changing quite as often are also included in that. And then finally the special level, which typically either takes a long time to run or requires special configuration or hardware to run on. But this allows us to kind of break things out into different levels and run certain types of tests more often, run some tests less often, but still give us a fairly good coverage. And there's some numbers in this slide that matter. They're actually a little bit outdated. I should probably update this. But I'll move along nonetheless. I want to talk a little bit about the external group of tests, because I think a lot of people at this conference maybe focus on some of the large Java applications or frameworks that sit above a JVM. So I do want to take this closer look at that external group of tests. We're talking about a lot of the microprofile TCKs on the various providers. We're talking about some Quarkus quick start tests here in that sanity group. In extended external, this includes a lot of large Java applications. We run their functional suites as part of our AQA program. And why do we do this? We want to know really early if something is either broken on our side or the application side, so we can reach out, raise a issue upstream if that's where it lives, or figure out what has happened downstream in our build process that has broken someone. And then finally, we do have a special set there as well, and this special set includes a way to include any Java application that has a straightforward command line in terms of running their functional tests. That's all I'm going to say there. I'm moving on now to talk about the layer cake. I talked briefly earlier on Test Kit Gen, or TKG, this thin veneer that we lay over top of all of these different test frameworks. In this layer, that's actually all that's required in order to run any of our tests. We put a lot of the functionality there so that if you were a developer running on your laptop, running a command line, you could just run tests directly. We want to be able to enable developers. We want developers to be able to test easily, because the more easy it is to test, the more people test. In the middle layer of this cake, we're talking about CI systems, and at our project we use Jenkins heavily, and I'm going to demo that in a moment. But we also allow and support running in a lot of different environments. Obviously, because you could run in the command line, wherever you can run a command line, you can run these tests. And we do run them in as GitHub workflows, and we do run them in our public Azure DevOps. There are a lot of users of our suite as well that have enterprise Azure DevOps that run our set of tests there. Finally, the icing on the cake, the top of the cake, is what we call TRSS, or Test Result Summary Service. And this is where, if I was running in 5 different Jenkins servers and another public ASDO or Azure DevOps environment, could I bring all of the results together in one view, aggregate the results, keep a longer history of the results, and have additional search, sort, and filtering capabilities on it? Why would I want to do this? This actually really allows me to deeply understand the behavior of the thing we're testing, and also allows me to triage extremely quickly. This is also the plug-in point for deeper analytics and some deep learning experiments that we're doing. So, quick view, you can actually go and look at the source code of what we have for TRSS. You can even visit our open instance of it. The instance that we have at TRSS AdoptOpenJDK.net is really only monitoring a single Jenkins server, but that is to say that it's not restricted to that. We have a lot of people using this tool that have taken it, run instances to monitor their own performance benchmarks on several different servers. It's designed to be used by anyone to monitor any CI system and give you this kind of bigger graphical view. It's also designed to be able to plug in your own parsers for whatever output you're trying to look at. All right, so I've mentioned you could run AQA locally. I've mentioned we run it extensively in Jenkins. We also use, we have a run AQA GitHub action, which I'll demo, and you could use Azure DevOps as well. Who are using this at the moment? We have JVM developers actively using it, OpenJDK distributors actively using it, companies that maybe don't distribute their own JVM, but they're tweaking it for themselves. application communities use it, and some enterprise consumers also use it as a way to compare and contrast different distributors and distributions. This is a really long slide. You can read through all of these wonderful points, but I think the main thing I want to highlight here is that what is the community benefit? I think that AdoptOpenJDK and soon to be Eclipse Adoptium really has something to offer, which is we are a multi-company community. We're not just one single vendor. The people at our community are there we believe in open source. We believe in open and transparent activities, and I think we have a lot to offer here. One of the other things that we've built out as part of AQA is this notion of comparative analysis. I've personally really felt that as we have verified almost every OpenJDK distribution out there, we've learned a lot about how they are different. We've learned a lot about how they are the same. And we've learned that having the variety of vendors and implementations is important to the health of the Java community. And I will talk at length at that if someone wants to ask me questions. All right, so in 2021, what are our upcoming plans? So many. We've already achieved a lot in the last couple years. 2021 means we're going to build out the 80 plus benchmarks that we're running. We have a lot of tooling that lets you visualize the results of those benchmarks, but the main point for us at the project is lets us go from release to release and pinpoint if there is a regression, when did it happen? And if there's an improvement, when did it happen? For the external test group, we have the expansion of being able to easily include other Java applications and a continual cleanup here. So Java applications, some of those communities are releasing very rapidly. We need to keep up with that. So we're going to automate the ability to update the versions that we track and that we test against. And in this way, that test set will not go stale on us before it's time. Smarter, better, faster. That's a bullet point that I love because that means that we're doing a whole bunch of work on change-based testing. That means we can do smart parallelization. And that also means we are studying and running metrics against the test suites that we have. So we're going deeper into the value of what we have and making decisions, hard decisions, on what we keep and what we throw out. And in terms of TRSS enhancements, there's a lot to come. Right now we show a by pipeline view, which is when we do a release, we're triggering pipelines in Jenkins. When we show the large number of tests that get run against that. And we're storing that in a backend database on that test result summary service instance. That backend database lets us query in various ways. It'll let us query on Java version information. So instead of just looking at what ran from a particular pipeline, I'm not committed to just that one instance or that one pipeline. I could see all of the tests ever that we ran against a particular version, and that could cross over time, that could cross over servers. So if I was running on 3 different servers, I could still compare those results if they were the same version. So being able to key in on different things in the database are some of those enhancements, and will be very powerful in terms of us being able to triage and do comparative analysis. And finally, as we always like to do, connecting with universities and research teams to be able to improve the state of testing in general. So we have a few projects in flight on this topic as well. The last thing I wanted to mention doesn't get a whole lot of airplay in this presentation, but we are moving to the Eclipse Foundation. AdoptOpenJDK has wonderfully grown larger than their britches. So in order to keep up with our growth, we felt it was important to move to a foundation in order to be able to give us a proper framework and governance to keep up with the rate of growth. It will be a transition. We will be working very hard in 2021 to make sure there is no break in service and there is a continuity, that our 225 million plus downloads and people that use us aren't affected by this move. But I do want to talk briefly that we're moving to the top level project, Adoptium. And just to sort things out, we have broken the activities of our project out into 3 sub-projects. Aquavit being my baby, what we're talking about today being everything related to quality testing. Tamarin being the project that is all about building the binaries that we do. And then Tamarin Compliance would be the project where we run the compliance test suite under an OCTLA agreed upon by the Eclipse Foundation and Oracle. So kind of 3 distinct activities that we are going to be doing under the Eclipse Adoptium working group. All right, so I'm going to move into very quick demos, but I do want to give them to give people a sense of what it is we do at the project. Maybe give you a little excitement about what you could be doing as part of contributing to our project, or something that would help you in your own work. Let's take a quick look at TRSS and how one might triage a nightly pipeline. A really quick look. Let's take a look at an OpenJDK 11 pipeline, and I'm going to quickly go to the grid view, which is the view I like to use to be able to see the health of that build. And these are, each chiclet here indicates test jobs that we triggered and ran as part of that nightly. Now, if they're green, I can completely ignore them. If they're not, I should drill in and take a closer look. It shows me that I had quite a few failures here. I guess there would be 7 or 8 failures out of that group. I can look and see how each of these targets did across each platform. I can look at the deeper history, and as you can see, I see a recent history already here. These are actually new tests that were enabled at this particular build. So some of them aren't working. As I dig into these, we may see that this is a configuration issue or a machine issue that needs to be corrected. I can check if someone's already raised an issue by clicking on possible issues. It's going to go searching across all our repos to see if it finds something related. And if it hasn't, I could create an issue here. So that's my very quick view of what we do at the project each night. In summary, I want to say that we've covered that what is AQA and what is testing at AdoptOpenJDK and soon to be Eclipse Adoptium. Well, we're guided by the AQA Manifesto, which, if you remember, the #1 criteria on that list is open and transparent. Enough of us being an ecosystem where everything is happening behind corporate walls. Let's come together, work together as a community on something that matters to everyone. We want Java to be a vibrant, active, growing language and growing community. And how do we do that? Not by politics and division, but actually by coming together as one stronger, unified, collaborative group. We're going to sanitize and grow the current suites we have in that simpler, better, faster engagement that we want to do in 2021. We're actively seeking participation, so contact me, contact me directly, contact me through our Slack workspace, or however you know how to contact me. I'll make sure you have my contact information as we talk after this presentation. If you have contributions in terms of useful tests or test approaches, ways that you verify things yourself, please contribute. This is really about building a center of expertise. I didn't want to put center of excellence because that sounds too floaty. Center of excellence, sure, but really bringing all the expertise that the community has to offer together, and learning from each other. And we don't have to be in competition here. We can actually all benefit, which is the great part of the AQA program. Finally, collaboration fuels innovation, and it feels fun, and I'd love to work with all of you. So thank you very much for hanging in there with me. If you have questions, please ask them. Please get a hold of me, and let's work together to make Java better. Thank you.